all institutions in every case that we need to look into, right? So this is mainly based on gender sensitive social work. So in the introduction, they talk about how social work is a noble profession, a charity work, etc., which is something that every social worker will already know about. It is a challenging, difficult task, but eventually it gives the worker self satisfaction, right? After having dealt with cases or you have seen success cases, it gives an immense pleasure and satisfaction to the social worker and also the immediate surroundings that we have been able to help people in this aspect. Though the need, therefore, arises to sensitize the social workers with regards to gender, because here our main focus is gender. So, as we know here, gender equality represents equal privileges, responsibilities, and prospect for men and women. Right? Gender parity doesn't specify that women and men will not come to be the same. Okay, it's not a competition. It's not like we are competing, we want to be first and etc. No, it's only that we need to acknowledge, because sometimes in the society we have discussed a lot in the last session, in the previous session, how the cultural differences, the socio-cultural environment that we have will occur, will lead to differences in gender parity, for example. But does it mean that we voluntarily want it? It's the society, it's a social construct. It has been constructed by people, by our ancestors, traditions, religion, culture, you name it. It has been existing since so long. So we are going to say that X and Y is to be blamed for what is happening. The system is like this, and we need to understand it. We are living in it. We have to adapt, right? Adopt the practices as well. But in our own way, we can see how we can reduce the impact of inequality in everyone's lives. So, of course, as social worker, when you are dealing with cases, it will be on your onus how to deal with that. But of course, there are guidelines, there are procedures that we need to understand and follow whenever we are working. So therefore, we are sensitizing social workers about gender sensitive social work practice, which arises from the fact that social work traditionally doesn't lay emphasis on gender as an important component of social work practice. It is good to inform you that long ago, even when we had the main theories, even in sociology, the sociological theories, functionalism, Marxism, etc., we didn't have the concept of gender. So the theories, all the different scholars, they were working, they were writing the different theories and exploring and carrying out research, but the aspect of gender was not highlighted. It was not like considered as well. And you will see that only the feminist Marxism theories at some point in time in the late 1990s, where we had the work of prominent feminists, which then started, right? So the work of Anne Oakley, different feminists that we have in terms of certain Marxist feminists, which raised up the issue, and it became such a big thing, right? It internationally people started to talk about it, and eventually all the conferences which are going to follow, we will see in Unit 5 a bit about the history of how the aspect of gender came into the picture, right? For the moment, just you need to do that. Long ago, it wasn't valorized, and later, at a later stage, it started to be more in the picture, and people are talking more and more about it. So, therefore, of course, arising the need to include gender equality in all aspects of social work, right? So, rationale, I have just explained to you. So, gender, along with other social determinants, affects the individual's life chances, etc., etc. We have here the work of Whitehead and Kabir, who claim that very important consequences to gender equality in terms of causing harm to women who are discriminated against, as well as to a country's ability to realize its full growth potential. Because when we are neglecting or when we are not uh, we are looking over women, it's like half of the population or more than half. Women represent 52% of the population. So it's more than half of the population which are not being in a way uh, looked at or understood or heard, right? Because if women would have their voices, it could have played a significant or at least a different role into the plight of people, the welfare of people, the dimension, their way of thinking would have brought a different sense, right, to the whole society instead of being only a men's world. The importance, like we should integrate those people who are more than 52%, 50% of the population, right? So it's important like this to have the rationale why it is important. Maintenant, gender relations in social work, right? So we have the work here of Salomo, Alice Salomo, who defined social work as, of course, a noble profession where we are helping people in poverty, people who are vulnerable, people in need, reducing differences between the wealthy and the deprived, ensuring objectives of social work or cooperative, etc., etc. Empowering women, helping them to have a job, not only women but also men as well. Okay, if we are going to help families, people in general, we need to help everyone. So eventually the men and both men and women who will be empowered to have a job, to look after their children, to have healthy environment in which they are living, suitable ones, okay, so protecting them, etc. So additionally, Jane Addams also played an important role where she talks about elements of social work as a profession. So what we are involved is working with poverty, people who are in need, offering shelters and housing to children. All these we already have, right? It's just that in Mauritius we have already a very good welfare state. um, it would be good to highlight that we do have an appropriate, well set up welfare state, but it's also important to recognize the work of social workers, the profession of social workers. It's high time that we regularize this sector and we create a career path, we create like interesting packages for people, for especially the youth who are following courses training in that field. They are encouraged because more and more we will need more social workers. We are an aging population, and at the same time we have unemployment issues. We have the youth derivating, to drugs, alcohol, you name it, what type of social evils. You have many people who are depressed, who are, mentally, they are not like happy, they are having difficulties to cope, and so on. So we need all these because, like I always say, development goes along with economic and social development. We can't have only economic development, infrastructure, uh, having more and more facilities, malls, etc., etc., is very good. But we need to look at the plight of people as well. People should be at the center of development. So people should be happy. That's why we call it socio-economic development. So if people are not happy, it's going to have a direct consequence on the whole population. People will be frustrated, there will be suicide cases, there will be frustration, more theft, more burglaries, you are not going to feel safe, so it will affect, it will threaten the country's stability, safety, tourists will not come. You see, it's like a whole cycle. So we need to ensure people are happy. Well-being of people should be at the center. On appelle ça HDI, Human Development Index, right? So these are the factors, not only economic factors, but these social factors also are seen when the UN, when the international organizations are going to rate our country as whether it is an upper middle income country or high income country, developed country or developing countries. So all these will be eventually reflected on the world picture, right, of Mauritius, what type of country it is. Because when investors, when tourists are coming to our island, they want to know about all these, how people are living, okay, what is the inflation rate, is there a type of acquaintance, a type of harmony at the same time with regards to prices, inflation, unemployment, all these. People want to know, especially those who are going to come and invest in the country, right? So it's very important as well to make people at the center of development, right? So enabling, for example, here voluntary work, especially by students, encouraging them to help. For example, like I always say, you people are already working, I mean you are already in the employment sector, but those students who are unemployed and who are studying social work, I always encourage them to become proactive. Start by doing voluntary work, right, helping people, joining NGOs, creating their own NGOs, and this will help them eventually reach very far, right? Claiming charity alone is not enough, etc. We should also invest, right? Campaigning and social justice, raising public awareness of social problems, of etc. etc. Now we see that indeed the major irony is that the field of social work is repeatedly labeled as a female dominated vocation. Most of the higher positions are held by men. Who can tell me why and how it has happened? Are you with me? Are you all with me? Why is social work repeatedly labeled, or why it is a female dominated vocation? Who can tell me? You've understood my question? Mm, oui,
Hello? Yeah, hello?
oui, oui, oui.
It's our
On vous entend.
because the men, the boys they do scientific subjects. More goes to scientific subject, and women do subject like social studies, sociology. It's
Oui,
more
pourquoi?
girls that
Why?
because they are more sensitive and preoccupied because of their caring instinct, maybe because they look after the family. They are more concerned about these issues, health issues, social issues. Maybe.
Mhm.
I wonder.
Okay. The
So teachers,
others, oui.
yeah, the teachers doing sociology and sociology and social studies, or many women, female teachers at college.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Others?
Madam, because
Yes.
women are most affected, and just a woman can understand the pain of others. So, female are better placed for doing social to work as social workers.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. You remember last time we were discussing about gender institutions and all, and we said that there are certain jobs which are mainly preoccupied by women. You remember that? Like we mentioned, teaching, receptionist, um, different teachers, even in the pre-primary sector, they would be teachers. Because like you said, you both said, in fact, they are more affectionate jobs, right? So you also rightly said uh, women are more represented where they feel at ease, one, Deuxième, it is considered to be a more affectionate one, where it is closely related to what they do generally, caring, looking after children, shouldering responsibilities, okay, be socially available, right, with regards to their commitments, to social work commitments, etc. So that's why it is mainly firstly, women are more represented in social work. And women themselves, they are the victims, which is the irony here, right? In terms of gender, bien sûr. On a beaucoup d'autres problèmes, but here, since we are referring on gender, it is a kind of irony. Now, secondly, is that why it is more, I would say, gender populated profession is it's because it is not really a regularized sector. So women are joining by maybe hobby or passion, right? And it is not really, surtout à Maurice, in other countries, for example, in Canada, it's a very regulated one, very well paid, and even PhD holders, very trained sociologists, psychologists, counselors are involved into social work because they have clear career path, very specific, very interesting. Maurice and in other parts of the countries where it is not regulated, it's only that to fill the gap, okay? Not very much professionalized sector where women are joining to have a kind of leisure pastime, but also helping people. It is more in that sense. And also in Mauritius, you will see that those who want to become politicians, especially youngsters, they involve into social work. They would get into NGOs, they would be in the media, like propagating everywhere that they want to help, they are here to help, and eventually they will have the tickets and join politics. Ça aussi, on a vu, right? Donc, it takes different dimensions in Mauritius, but still, we need social workers, and it's high time that it is a sector which becomes regularized. Okay? Right? So thank you for that. So we continue now. Though different arguments are there, for example, McPhail are important. The arguments they draw attention to the fact even though number of female workers outgrow male social workers, he is describing the field as being female dominated. Right? Though, un petit peu partout dans le monde, it is the case. Right? Then they are talking here about the different waves of feminism. Donc, comme je vous dis, assez tard, in the late 1990s, that we started having the movements of feminism. So, first wave, second wave, third wave, and fourth wave of feminism. Right? So, you will see the first wave started with the raising interest of how or why gender is important to help the population, not only men and women. And here you will see second wave of feminism, which detached the notion of sex from gender, which is the work of Anne Oakley in the 1972 and in 1979. So you will see that first wave, second wave already existed, right? And eventually, we will discuss later the third wave and fourth wave as we go along. Now, having said so, what is the role of social work in reducing gender inequality? Right? How will gender equality or social work together in a sense that we are going to make an impact? Right? So how? You will see that the potential of social work is immense. We can do so much, but of course we need to have the support of authorities and also the government or the political system. Right? So therefore we need, as we say here, to encourage and to adapt what we call a woman-centered practice. Right? Whatever we do, whatever we engage in, is we are engaging into a women-centered practice, c'est-à-dire gender-sensitive, right? So as we see here, gender-sensitive social work practice, men, women, boys, and girls who face especially difficulties, right, in different ways are encouraged here to be more proactive, right, and to adapt to certain measures, right? So as it is mentioned, international organizations such as the UNFPA, United Nations Population Fund, they are of the opinion of the statement that gender equality is first and foremost a human right. Women are entitled to live in dignity and in freedom from want and from fear. Right? So again, advocating and trying to make people understand and arguing for the fact that women and men should be on equal grounds. So in view of its far-reaching worldwide history of women functioning together to attain social work and economic justice, social work profession has the immense potential to advance of the cause of global gender equality. So at that time, les années 95, 90 à 2000, 2005, there was a big, if you can say, international movement all around the world to sensitize, to make people understand, and trying to bring the idea forward, right? So you will see here the National Association of Social Workers, again, they mention about code of ethics, highlighting the morals of social justice, pride, and value of all individuals, and significance of human relations. So all these working together to strengthen the notion of gender sensitive social work practice. So as a profession, the social workers who were involved into different fields, you name it, whether it is poverty, working with young people, working with the elderly, working in education, right? They are all involved into having an aspect of adopting the gender sensitiveness, right? So looking at the work of social workers, can you please mute yourself? Okay. Right. So feminist social workers. So we have the work of Alston here, who described feminism as gender sensitive. Right. So being a feminist, everyone can be a feminist. You don't have to be a woman to be a feminist. A feminist is someone just who just understands that men and women should be equal in the society and there should be no discrimination. If you don't agree, then you're not a feminist. But if you agree, I guess everyone is a feminist because it is something as logical, right? So feminism seeks to understand the structural and social factors that shape women's experiences and lead to gender equality. Because the term feminism, especially in the patriarchal world, people really don't understand that. They portray feminists as women who want to become like men, who want to appear like men, who want to become stronger than men, which is not true. These are all myths and are not really what feminists are advocating. So again, they are working feminism towards violence, power, patriarchy, ego, sharing of responsibilities, understanding each other, etc. So feminist social workers shift the focus of personal problems to the outer world, where so often the cause lies, right? So what do? They place the structures and processes affecting clients at the center of social work practice. So feminist approach to social work is based on the assumption that problems of clients are within our social structure, which is patriarchal, oppressive to women, whereas women have become less and less equal, which is the reason why they have started to look at how we should include women at all levels. So, therefore, the goal of their initiative was to create a society which is equal for both men and women. So, feminist social workers link women's personal experiences to expected sexual norms, oppressive structures, and discriminatory practices. So they intervene at both micro and macro levels. I'm sure you understand by now what are macro and micro levels, right? Micro means individual level and macro means societal level, governmental level, which is the larger picture. So they utilize the skills of counseling, but also strive to bring about social, structural, and cultural change. Right? So at all levels, they would like to bring that aspect of gender sensitiveness. Right? So this is it, how we can include gender sensitive social work practice, whether it is at individual level, the person is having difficulty at home, in the different institutions, whether it is in a couple or at work or at school, right? Can be. So how we are going to intervene, and also at institutional level in terms of laws, legislation, adapting and also practicing, enabling the different facilities being given by the government. To some, we are going to help with regards to gender and also social work. Right? Vous avez des questions? Est-ce que c'est clair? No, it's clear? So you would like to discuss on this one, think about social work practice in Mauritius and how your interventions as a social worker can help to improve the lives of women. I'll give you 5 minutes. Think about it and the bullet points, and then we are going to discuss about it, and then we will start with Unit 5, which is the last unit of our module. Right? Unit 6. Right. Okay? So just let me know when you finish. I'm right here. Mia, is it finished? So if you can share how you will intervene as a social worker to improve the lives of women. So keeping in mind what we have discussed since the beginning of the module.
Oui, madam.
Yes.
If we think about social work practice in Mauritius itself, I think social work practice in Mauritius is still lagging behind. Social work is as such is not recognized, and I think first of all, social work practice in Mauritius should be given its place and value,
Yes.
so that we can help women in as a social worker, we can help to improve the lives of women. As a social worker, I think all women should be given their value. They should be included in the mainstream. Women should be
Yes.
made to be independent by providing a fair job that can help them to survive together with their children. Women should be motivated to defend themselves against domestic violence and know how to protest. They should move ahead for legal help. They have to be educated, give them at least a minimum education so that they can stand up on their feet. Educate them. They have to be taught. They have to be educated that there is nothing like men are more powerful than women. They should be made to understand that they can do anything if they have a strong willpower. And I think women who are in remote areas should be removed from that place, and they should be socialized in a way such as a good way of dressing, good way of talking, makes them feel valued. This is my point, madam.
Yes. Very good, very interesting as well. So you have rightly highlighted how women should be encouraged to come in front, to be empowered also, educated and take up the lead as a woman. It's not that because they are women they can't achieve, they can't do something in life, in their career, in whatever they can achieve. Yes, very interesting. The others? Okay, then let's move to Unit 5, right? So, Unit 5, you will see that it is very much theoretical. Huh? Même ces theoretical approaches. Donc, beaucoup de dates, it's a bit like historical happenings with regards to gender, right? Donc, peut-être when I talk about it, it will appear a bit, especially those who haven't read, it will appear a bit technical, un peu difficile à comprendre. But then you read it again afterwards, right? When you revise, you go through it again. It's not difficult. It's just that there is a chronology that you need to understand about the different happenings, activities that took place in terms of gender empowerment and all. Right? So I'm going to start with first of all, as you know, women who are having triple roles in the society, right? They play what we call triple role. C'est-à-dire productive role, reproductive role, and the community work, right? Donc, productive role, c'est comme vous savez, paid work. And reproductive role is the unpaid work that she is engaged in. C'est-à-dire household duties, right? For example, looking after the elderly, taking care of the children, right? So this is normally her primary job, especially in a patriarchal society, right? Then we have community role. C'est ça même que je vous ai dit tout à l'heure là, in terms of social work that women are engaged in. It is taken for granted, right? Because she long ago woman was not working. She was supposed to be free, right? And she was involved into community work. So that was the main roles of women, that how they were engaged in and normally are understood to be involved, right? But since they are doing so much, however, they were neglected in the development process. C'est-à-dire, again, like I was telling you in the beginning, they were not cared. It wasn't deemed important to include women in all aspects, different levels of development. For example, even the theories, they were not looking at women's welfare. They were not even involved, okay, in the different theories that we see, sociology, for example, functionalism, Marxism, symbolic interactionism. Nowhere we have made mention of women and what they do in terms of their roles. So it's high time that we start pondering on all these, and eventually the different feminist theories and other scholars have started to discuss and point out how women should be represented in the development process. Right? So if we see here, for example, women were neglected in development. We have the work of Rogers, Barbara Rogers, who mentioned about how women were really not represented, right, in the government field, in the government sectors, right? So she mentioned employed in the government sector, they were very rare, even in terms of uh, taking decisions, okay, being involved into decision making, women were not represented, right? So therefore, the majority of societies were kind of patriarchal societies, right? So in terms of the theoretical approaches, we have got what we call the width, what, and the gut, right? What is the width? Say women in development, right? And then we had the move, all these three, they are the movements which happen at different stages to include women in the development process. So first of all, the width, the what, and the gut. We're going to study one by one. What do they mean? So the WID, c'était plutôt at the start, at the beginning, where it was mainly a kind of welfare state, welfare movement towards women. So women were considered as vulnerable. Women, children, and the elderly all together were considered as vulnerable and need to be protected and cared after. Right? So that is why all of the policies were geared towards looking at the benefits of women. Vous allez voir, the first wave of feminist approaches, women's suffrage movement, etc., which started in the 19th century, right? So these first feminists, they were the only one who was struggling for equal rights to vote and participate in politics. So women at first didn't even have the right to start voting, to vote for the elections. Second wave started to deal with those socio-cultural inequalities that women face in lives. For example, reproductive rights, sexual violence, sexual discrimination, and glass ceilings. The third wave emerged following the following of Boserup. Esther Boserup is a very prominent feminist, right? She has a lot of publications on feminism, women's roles, etc. So, women's role in economic development. The results of her study were shown how increasingly specialized division of labor associated with development undermines or neglects the value of women's work and status, especially in developing countries. So here the WIT approach, as I told you, is mainly about welfare, understanding the needs of women and trying to help them out. So the goal of WIT is to ensure the integration of women in the workforce and increase the level of productivity in order to improve their lives. Okay? So helping them in general. Then we also have the work of Moser, Caroline Moser, who also have discussed women's needs in terms of patriarchal gender needs and strategic gender needs. What are patriarchal, practical, right? So practical needs are immediate and material, which relate to what people need in order to perform their current roles more easily. The word itself is practical, right? So gender sensitive, for example, access to healthcare, water availability, and employment opportunities. You will not believe that even in this year, 2024, in 2024, many women around the world, pour ne pas dire men, right? Women around the world are facing unequal resources. For example, water availability. In, for example, remote areas, I attended a conference like I think 2 years ago, where many areas in African countries, in India even, women still have to walk several miles to fetch water. Right? Water is not available, and most of them, the women need water for cooking purposes, for washing clothes, for enabling their domestic tasks, and they still have to walk, and have put in so much efforts to get only access to water, which is really unacceptable, right? In this, but especially globalized world, we're talking about technology, we're talking about so many improvements, AI, artificial intelligence, and all, and people are still suffering, especially here women. So practical needs, they are important for survival: shelter, water, work, education. And if these needs are not met, they are led to inequality. So we need to address all these, right? So this is a bit about the approach of the WID. Welfare, anti-poverty, equity, efficiency and movement, empowerment, mainstreaming gender equality. So the welfare approach was mainly geared towards practical gender needs by Moser. Then we have the anti-poverty approach. Anti-poverty means that we are careful that women do not enter poverty. So we attend to their needs. Right? Women's poverty is seen as a problem of underdevelopment and not for subordination. Right? So practical gender needs, okay, they are meant to earn more income. It is the most popular with NGOs. Right? Then we have the equity approach. Equity is the original WID approach introduced within the 1976 and 1985. So they are met, it recognizes the woman's triple role and seeks to meet strategic gender needs through direct state intervention, giving political and economic autonomy to women, and reducing inequality with men. On a vu tout ça à Maurice, it is happening, it has happened. Then this efficiency approach, again, meeting practical gender needs and empowerment approach, empowering women. Vous vous rappelez, à Maurice, par exemple, we had movements in les années 2000, like to empower women, to give them courses, even auto-école, pâtisserie, hairdressing, just to empower them. Because there was a study done by PricewaterhouseCoopers, which said that women constitute more than 50% of the population, and 35% of these women are inactive. Inactive means that they are not encouraged to work, to be productive. So they are just staying at home. In a country like Mauritius, we don't have natural resources. We don't have oil, petroleum that we can generate income. We have only human resources. So it was seen to be unlogical that 35% of the population was staying at home and not becoming productive for themselves and also for the society, which is why they were encouraged to form part of an employment sector. They were empowered, they were given training, courses, and you will see today we do have certain profits, certain improvement out of all these that we have started and we are still doing in terms of PME, in terms of giving incentives. They become their own bosses. They are empowered to become trainers as well, to do marketing of their products, to be creative. So we are doing a lot, and we do have many success stories as well where women have thrived and their products today are marketed nationally and internationally as well. So it is something that we have to invest in if we want to have development in our country. So here empowerment plays a very important role. Empowerment not only of women but also of everyone who wish to come ahead and develop themselves and help the country further, right? So therefore with this we talk about empowerment. It also refers to strategic gender needs. En haut, on avait vu practical gender needs. Here it is strategic gender needs, where it should be understood in terms of the lens of women's status in the society. Donc là, c'est plus macro level. Right? Practical was more micro level. Right? Individual level. Here we are looking at the societal level, the status of women in the society, in the country. You will agree with me that in Mauritius, if we talk about laws, equality, the government's position, even the prime minister's position, they are all at par with gender equality issues. They would all fight. They would all agree that we need to fight for the rights of women and give them equal credit at all levels in the society. So examples of addressing strategic needs, for example, freedom of choice, giving rights to land, inheritance, credit, financial services, loans and all, control over their bodies, nature of relationship between men and women, access to credit, control over resources, ameliorative measures to combat domestic violence, abolition of gender division of labor. All these already exist and are being enforced in Mauritius, increasing participation of women in decision making, creating equal opportunities to employment, equal pay for equal work, and improving social systems. So all these are already in line with whatever we are doing to encourage and to empower women. Then we also have mainstreaming gender equality. Okay, so here we had a very important and also remarkable conference in Beijing in 1995. This is where the whole movement started and were encouraged, and all countries around the world, including Mauritius, started to take action. Right? So in Beijing conference, all participant countries acknowledge that gender equality and women empowerment matter to human rights and social justice. And they all agreed unanimously to empower and to encourage women in their respective countries. Right? So this is the first part of the development process, which is the WID. I was telling you, WID, the Women in Development. So in Women in Development, you have all these 5 approaches, right? Now we come to Women and Development. Ça, c'est deuxième. Women and Development approach started and originated in 1975 in the Mexico City on America. Right? So it started with the first World Conference. Après ça, on a eu une série de conférences to culminate into 1995 Beijing Conference. Right? So the first one started in 1975, where what represented a shift about women's role in development. In fact, they argued that women should not only be in development, but they should be together in terms of developing policies, decision making, and all. That is why the in became and. So women should be roped into development, right? Because they can't be inactive members of development or passive members just accepting whatever is being decided for them. It was there decided that women should form part of decision making. So the origin of what attributed to newly gained independence of freedom for many countries in the 1950s and 1960s, and this included Mauritius as well. Right? So what perspectives state that women have always participated and contributed towards the economic development, regardless of the public and private spheres. So what is often misinterpreted as weak? Parfois, il y a confusion, right, if at all levels, and what focuses specifically on the relation between patriarchy and capitalism. Right? Then came the movement Gender and Development. So then they started to have a lot of criticisms, like people or we are focusing only on women, only on aspects where women are involved. And what happened to men? Are we not being discriminatory? So therefore, instead of women, it was replaced by gender, because as you know very well, gender means both men and women. So if you're talking about gender and development, we are talking about both men and women development. Why should we separate them? Because all women and men, we both form part of this world, and our own existence is based on this, right? So therefore, the focus on gender instead of women were influenced by prominent writers again, such as Oakley. Okay, in 1972, Oakley was able to distinguish between sex and gender. Qu'on a fait in Unit 2. We have already studied that. So Oakley differentiates between sex and referring to biological theories, biological characteristics of men and women. Whereas gender refers to human traits linked to culture and social constructs, social meanings that we give to men and women in the society. So God here has become increasingly important, right, in the 1980s, where around the world, ministries, countries, governments were engaged into bringing in more gender-sensitive practices and empowerment for both men and women. So here, as I said, it culminated into the Fourth World Conference in 1995, where it happened in Beijing, where they were attached to this GATT approach, right? So they attached more importance to gender mainstreaming, making it accessible, reachable to everyone in the society. Maintenant, the position in Mauritius, gender equality in Mauritius. So the government here, as we have said and we all know, it is committed to promote social justice, human rights, including gender equality. So gender still persists in the Mauritian society, and a number of actions have been undertaken by the government to remedy any effort, any gender equality or inequity. Donc, on a le National Gender Policy, the steering committee, which is led by the Prime Minister himself, and we have the National Gender Policy 2022 à 2030. Right? Dans 2019, we have got ranking for the Global Gender Gap Index, GGI. Mauritius was ranked 115 out of 153 countries compared to 109 in 2018. So we are doing progress, but very slowly, right? So the GGI, what does it measure? It measures economic participation and opportunities for women, educational attainment, health and survival, and political attainment. So mostly political empowerment is not maybe très fameux à Maurice, but the others, they're good. We do have economic participation. We do have educational attainment. Even women outperform men. They do better than boys in education. Health and survival, again, we have good results in terms of maternal mortality rates have decreased considerably. Okay, prenatal, postnatal care are given to them, right? We do have a lot, but there, of course, there are still room for improvement, right? In general, women's health, for example, my madam anemic, right? They do have a lot of problem nowadays. We have the issue of cancer, right? So one by one, we will try to work on it together, but at least there should be room for improvement, right? In 1982, the Ministry of Women's Rights was founded, right, which were catering for women, children, family welfare. But then in 1995, after the Beijing conference, the Prime Minister, the then Prime Minister, Saj, they brought amendments and all, and the ministry's name changed from women to gender equality. So now we have the Women's Ministry of Gender Equality, not Women's Equality. Right? In terms of the constitution, so in Mauritius, most of the fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual are guaranteed under the, as you know, the constitution, mainly under the Code Napoleon. Right? Of course, there are amendments to laws. So in 1997, we have got the Domestic Violence Act, right, qui est là to protect women. The Sex Discrimination Act en 2002, okay, to provide elimination of all forms of gender discrimination and sexual harassment in certain areas of public activity. Child Protection Act 1994, right, which was reviewed in 2020, Child Act, in terms of illegal marriage, because many children were getting married below the age of 16. So now it is not permissible for a child to get married below the age of 16. It has to be above 16. Otherwise, it is considered to be illegal. Then we have the Equal Opportunity Act, which was enacted in 2008, where it deals with discrimination, both direct and indirect. In terms of international and regional framework, so Mauritius is signatory of all conventions, every right in terms of equality, equal opportunities, equal rights, justice, everything Mauritius is signatory. They do take part in all aspects which is considered to be important for women and gender in general. So we have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Violence, the CEDAW, in 1984, And then the optional protocol in 2018, the CRC, Convention on the Rights of the Child, the ILO Convention on Harassment and Violence in the World of Work. Tout ça, on est signataire, right? African Charter on Human and People's Rights, on the Rights of Women in Africa. Encore une fois, right? Till recently, we have signed the STEM, women in science, engineering, technology, where they are not represented. So we have a movement by the UN to to be part of that, to sign, and we sign in fact, and we are part of that movement to encourage and to put into practice how to encourage more men and women, girls to form part in STEM, engineering, science, technology, and all. Then we have the Agenda 2030 and the SDGs. As you know, we have 17 SDGs, which we have looked at last time in our face-to-face session. We have 17 SDGs, and all of them are in a way related to gender. Okay, so the 17 SDGs with 169 targets are aimed to recognize ending poverty, education, go hand in hand with health, right? Strategies as well, okay, in terms of climate, in terms of access to water, hygiene, childcare, reproduction, women's health, everything is there. So Mauritius signed the Sustainable Development Goal in 2015. Right? So they engage, there is full commitment to carry forward the efforts under the MDGs to the implementation of the SDGs, mobilizing the country around the new set of development goals. Right? Especially Goal 5, which is to achieve gender equality and empowerment of all women and girls. So here is a bit about the national gender policy, which was adopted by the government, and in that we have the steering committee, etc. So it lays emphasis on the bold objective to work continuously and tirelessly towards a gender inclusive society. It indicates the critical gender challenges that impact on the realization of gender equality in Mauritius, and also contextualizes the priority development issues it identified that are required clear gender mainstream practices. Right? So now we have a reading on SDG 5, achieving gender equality and empowerment for all women and girls. Right? How it is important. Okay, and we have further readings here. Good. Donc, comme je vous dis, c'est très théorique, chronologique, different happenings which have been there since 1970s, late 1990s, and also the different approaches, the with, the what, and the got, right? In Mauritius, the different movements that we have been undergoing, and till now, what are our priorities, what we are doing towards empowering. The ministry is doing a lot, we know that, but sometimes it doesn't reach to that individual person, individual woman. Comme je dis, on a fait déjà, we are doing a lot. We already have a lot of conferences, papers, publications, policy papers, white paper, you name it, we have a lot. But how does it happen? Why is it the case that women are still suffering today? Okay, we are in a country, or we are in a world where sometimes things are not within our parameters or beyond our control. Okay, though we are doing it, but it is beyond our control, right? So how do we take it? Like, everyone should come with their own way, because we understand, I understand, you understand. The people in the public don't know what is happening. They just accept it as a matter of fact, right? They just understand that it is something that happens, and we take it for granted. But those who know, at least we people, we can make a difference. We can start by trying, though very little, minimal difference that we can have, but still we start at some point in time in our own lives, in our children's lives, in our environment, our workplace. If we try, we can give it at least a boost, okay? Because like I always say, having more conferences, having more talks, discussions will not help. It is high time that we reach out to the population through sensitization, through open days, through reaching out to the families, giving small trainings. Though we have to start with working, from scratch with the population. We have to come down level, right? And start looking at people's needs. Par exemple, les jeunes qui vont se marier, right? They don't know anything about uh, couple life, married life. Give them certain kind of incentive, training, information on that. Parents uh, who are going to be first time parents, give them more information about how parenting it is, how challenging at times, important decisions, how to deal with your children, how to talk to your children, right? And how to sensitize them, to socialize them. These things, maybe they are taken for granted. They are looked upon after by the grandparents, the parents. But nowadays, the context is different. Grandparents don't even have time to transmit the knowledge, the know-how to their grandchildren. They themselves, they are very busy, right? So what happens is that our youngsters are left to themselves. Like I said, when we did child welfare, like very big professionals, graduates, they are not able to come and have a proper upbringing for their children. They themselves, they are so much caught up into their daily activities. And it is now that we are seeing the impact: increase in divorce rates, increase in separation, extramarital affairs, separation after 1 or 2 weeks of marriage, of wedding. So it's the society which is suffering, right? And we need to understand this aspect to be able to help ourselves and the society. Okay, we talk about crimes, passionate crimes in Mauritius. Why do we have passionate crimes? Okay, again, the question comes forward, right? So, like I said, it is unacceptable. It's not that when we are talking about gender equality, we are talking about competition with men. Understand one thing, right? Like I said, I think I have mentioned it. Men and women form part of a society where we are living, and they complement each other. It's like a whole circle, which makes a total of 360 degrees. Women make 180 degrees and men 180. So they both complete each other at all levels, which completes the circle, whether it is at home, in the workplace, on a micro or macro level, right? The societal level as well. Everyone has their role to play, but we do it in a way that no one is inferior or superior. Okay, everyone takes care of their own priorities, prerogatives, and also how they would going to deal with everyone. Okay. So on this note, so we end the module, right? The syllabus is now completed, and I would invite you to go through, to read again whatever we have missed, or you may have questions, you may have queries, you please ask so that we can clear your doubts before you go for the exam. So we will have a last session which we will keep for revision. You come up with your questions and queries, and I will also return your assignments in the meantime. I have started correction, and I will give you feedback for your assignment, and I will also brief you for your exams in our last session. Right, so for the time being, if you have any questions, if there are any queries, I can hear from you. Okay, so no questions at all. Everything is perfectly clear. Okay, then if you don't have any question, please start your revision, and then next time we are going to work together on some question papers, last session, and eventually I'm going to give you feedback for assignments and also for the exams. Okay, thank you. Have a nice weekend. Au revoir.